Now I'm going to speak on the power to create. When we think of creativity, we usually imagine products, services, and forms of expression that are both new and in some way valuable. Creativity of this nature usually involves a period of incubation followed by some sort of insight, or the aha moment. Individuals vary in their capacity to create new ideas, yet creativity of this sort can be developed. I call this creative doing. There's another form of creativity, however, which I call creative being. It is something we all have, but don't necessarily recognize. Creative being is the state of creating our own reality moment by moment. It is not a limited concept where the mind quips, "Of course, I make choices in life on what to think, say, speak, and do. Therefore, I am by default creative." Creative being goes quite a bit further than that. The ancient Indian yoga master Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras speaks of supernormal states of mind. Just before he discusses the highest transcendent state of Kaivalya, or liberation, he speaks of a power where all possible forms of existence can be known and mastered. He says the yoga practitioner gains supremacy over what is immanent through the state of transcendence. In this case, he speaks of an elevated version of creative being as a supernormal power. In this state, what we call miracles are to such a yogi almost non-events. Imagine having a mind that experiences an infinite number of possibilities for manifesting reality, and yet somehow only makes choices that benefit all beings. Well, we all have this potential, believe it or not. The number of associations between the neurons in your brain has been estimated at 10 to the million power. Yet all the subatomic particles in the known universe are only 10 to the 80 power. That means the potential for connections in your brain outnumbers the total number of subatomic particles in an astronomical number of universes. The connections we use every day, however, are very small in comparison because there is usually no need for so much firepower. Yet, imagine if you experienced all those connections at once. You'd probably never be the same afterward. Creative being is part of who we are, but most of us attribute things that happen to us as luck or karma. We don't easily recognize that our minds are creating most of our experience through limited senses. The more we become aware of how our attention wanders to various stimuli, how our reward system selects certain benefits over others, and how awareness expands and contracts as a result, the more we begin to realize we are selecting our reality moment by moment. In short, creative being often operates at the subconscious level. The power to create is most associated with playfulness, which governs our actions. If we become playless, the capacity to create diminishes, whereas playfulness enhances both creative doing and creative being. As mentioned before, creativity and joy are linked. A person who recognizes creative being can more easily go with the flow and perform right action, that is, appropriate action. The power to create lies very close to the state of freedom and the bliss we seek. I find it interesting that creative action often requires more physical energy than heartfulness and mindfulness. For that reason, perhaps, we get a bit lazy when exercising this power in order to conserve energy. Creative action carries considerable responsibility. That's why playfulness and selfless service are related. Selfless service is a deep form of responsibility. The power to create also has a downside. We created nuclear energy and gene modification technologies, but have not always used them in a wise manner. In short, context is important. We need to ask, are people ready for what we create? In a similar way, creative being can get dark if the ego remains in control and selfishness abounds. We may create a reality that is harmful to others. That's why Patanjali emphasizes the importance of discernment in reaching the higher levels of yoga. Supernormal powers especially can be a deadly trap. The power to manifest our reality sooner or later encounters them. The last power, to reveal, allows us to see the trap before it gets us. What's been called the play of consciousness describes the underlying force in this phantasmagoric play we call life. It is creative being on a universal scale. When we recognize this play with our own hearts and minds, we edge closer to the sacred space of creative being. That's why the power to destroy exists. It breaks the ice so creative being can emerge. At a basic level, no creativity occurs without first dissolving or modifying previous associations or perceptions. This is the power to destroy at work. As you go about your day, try to pay attention to the shift from something familiar to something less familiar. For example, your attention wanders from a friend and takes interest in the stranger standing beside them. When you do this, you more easily recognize the state of creative being. And on that note, again, have a wonderful day. Namaste.